Good morning, good evening, and wherever the sun may find you. My name is Walt, and this is Coffee and Concepts on Keystroke Medium. Today we have Jay Kiefer with us. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you?
I am very undercaffeinated. And I have a Belgian Malinois trying to molly hump my leg to get me to go for a walk.
Very exciting.
It will be in a minute if he doesn't get his walk.
Be all over the floor.
No, he'll be all over the background. They jump. They jump very high.
Wow.
On a dead run, a Belgian Malinois, which holds the world record for the highest jump of any canine, can attain anywhere between 20 to 30 feet straight up.
Whew. That's incredible.
That's what we said the first time we pulled him off the roof. So this morning we're gonna talk a little bit about coffee versus dogs, which I could do all day. Yeah. And this morning I got a little bit of the roast of doom. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, yes, you have to go to Keystroke Medium.
Okay.
And so for those who need a roadmap. We can do this because we have the technology. You're going to go to keystrokemedium.com.
Medium.
Yep. And then you're going to, as soon as my internet decides it wants to work, you're going to go to, I don't know why it's not working. I got nothing. So anyway, you're going to go to keystrokemedium.com. You're going to get, there it is.
Finally showed up.
It was percolating, I guess.
That's what it was. It wasn't caffeinated enough yet.
Definitely not, right? You're going to go, hey, there's me. You're going to go to get coffee, and hopefully it'll take longer than it took to percolate the last cup. Right. And there's all this wonderful selections of coffee that you can get, including the Roast of Doom, which is a dark roast, a French roast. And they got, oh my God, yeah, really good. I love the smoky effect of a French roast.
Oh yeah.
Slightly smoky, slightly salty, and everything's there. It is right there. Oh yeah, Roast of Doom. Yeah. It's got a great price point too. I mean, for nice big bag, and they come. What do you call it? They come in these mailers, and it's just got on.
Block.
Yes, writer's block's really good. Just got on which dogs can jump high and how can they be stopped? Lucas Connor saying from YouTube. Leo Vicarius, morning, deep-voiced coffee guy. I thank you. I pride myself on the fact that diesel and fumes from JP4 aircraft for 20 years has probably ruined my what do you call it?
Your voice,
my singing voice.
Oh,
yep. And good morning to the coffee porn channel. So yeah, I like the smoky taste of a Roast of Doom. It's really got that sharp taste that I like in a coffee, and because it's a dark roast, does not have as much caffeine, so I can drink it throughout the day and not have to worry about my eyes going in different directions. How about you? What do you like in a coffee?
I like dark roasts. Unfortunately, I work for the state of New York, so
we don't judge.
I drink crappy coffee all night long because we have state coffee. Yeah, so every now and then we bring, someone brings in some better coffee, and we're all like, "Woo!" It's like the holy grail has been found. But generally, I'm drinking garbage coffee all night long.
Right on.
I'm kind of used to it now.
You never thought to bring a thermos?
No. I'm one of those who wakes up just in time to shower, get to work. Then I get to work and I'm like coffee, or I'm stopping at a gas station getting gas station coffee, which some gas stations have some decent coffee.
Yeah. The Green Mountain that we have periodically throughout our state isn't bad. Depending on whether or not somebody in the station has changed it in the last few hours or not.
Sure. Oh, that's always the key.
Yeah, if it's fresh, it's good.
Yeah. If not, it tastes like Starbucks coffee.
Oof. Yeah, which is all burnt.
Oh my God, it's awful. I remember one day my buddy and I we always just get coffee and talk. And so we went into Starbucks, and I think I brought my cup up like 4 times. Like, this is burnt. It's awful. Until I finally realized their basic coffee is just terrible. It's just awful coffee. It's like New York State coffee.
We had we have a restaurant chain here in Rhode Island, and it was very popular when it first started. Really, really great coffee. They were roasting everything in house. And then, and when I go out for coffee, like out somewhere, I usually get something that's a little more than just putting the coffee maker on. So cappuccino, espresso, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I get a cappuccino, and I'm like, I start to drink it. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell is this? And I apologized to the lady because I'd been going there for a few years, and I said, I don't know what this is. Can you remake this? I'm very sorry. I don't mean to be a pain in the butt. And she was like, no. What was wrong with it? I said, very bitter. Yeah. I said, this is like somebody just splashed milk into battery acid. This is awful. She's like, well, let me remake it. And she went to pour in a whole new bag of beans. Yeah. And I went, wait a minute. No, I see what the problem is. I said, can I just have, I don't need anything new, but I have a sandwich. Can I just have a bottle of water instead? Yeah. And she's like, well, you don't want the coffee? I said, no. So they were using the same coffee that we get from the coffee roasters at my work.
Okay.
And it's terrible. It's highly acidic. It's you can tell it's not a single origin coffee, right? Because the flavor profile isn't consistent. So it was just like, when they switched to that, I was like, nah, I'm gonna take my business somewhere else. You guys make great sandwiches, but I can't drink that.
Can't do that. Can't do that. Yeah, you couldn't work for the state of New York.
Well, I have a thermos. I can.
There you go. Yeah, you can bring your thermos. But yeah, when you're there for like 16 hours, like
I have a big thermos.
That'd definitely work. Have you ever had Laughing Man coffee?
Yes.
Love Laughing Man. It's probably my favorite coffee, actually. Yeah, I really like Laughing Man coffee. I'm not a huge connoisseur, probably, with coffee. I didn't actually start drinking coffee until I was in my 30s, believe it or not.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of bitter, which is one of the reasons why I haven't really found a beer I like either. Yeah. Because I'm not a real big fan of bitter.
So you're not an IPA guy. You're more of like a stout or a lager guy.
Yeah, when I do drink, which is not often.
Right on.
And my buddies are always trying to find something. Two of my brother-in-laws are real big into beer, and they're always trying to find something for me to try. Like, oh, why don't you try this one? Why don't you try this one? And I've yet to find anything that I really care for.
Right on.
So,
yeah. What when you do drink, what is the favorite?
Honestly, I don't really drink, so I couldn't tell you. I've never really drank at all, actually. So I really couldn't say what I like or don't like because I don't really drink. So most of what I have tried champagne, and that was okay, but it's not something that I would pick up and be like, "Woo!" Right? Let's drink that often. I've tried wine, don't like it. Mike's Hard Lemonade, which I guess is barely drinking, was pretty good. I guess I don't mind that. Or like a hard cider is fine. I've had a few hard ciders with friends, fishing, and they're like, "Hey, try this." I'm like, okay.
Hey, the boss stops in and says, "Mernon, hey, Josh Hayes." Yeah, seltzers are huge right now.
Yeah,
I mean, just like you can't keep them on the shelves.
I've seen them, never tried them.
Yeah, I can't do it.
Yeah,
but then again, I don't drink either. So
yeah, I mean I just don't. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where every now and then I'll try something with a friend or something, but I just don't really care for it. So it's like,
Right on. So, what did you have this morning for coffee?
I had crappy K-cup stuff. What I like, dollar store K-cup. I think
I don't touch
it. And I put almond joy creamer in it. So
right on. Do you like an almond taste with your coffee?
Yeah, I do. I like the nutty flavors. It's not my favorite, but it's what I bought. So yeah,
I know a lot of people that really enjoy almond milk in their coffee.
Never tried that.
I drink my coffee black just
Okay.
because I prefer the I want to taste the subtle hints
Sure.
in a flavor. Especially if you get something weird like Ethiopian coffie. If you've ever had it,
I have actually.
Yeah, it's got that like almost blueberry taste.
Yeah.
And then rumor has it Josh Hayes buys 8 o'clock coffee when no one is watching.
Yeah. You know what? That's I think what I had this morning was 8 o'clock coffee.
Right on. I think that would go against the company line. Getting that Keystroke medium coffee out there.
Sorry, I'll buy some for next time.
No, I'm talking about Leo, because he was like, when nobody's looking, Josh buys 8 o'clock coffee.
Oh, gotcha.
Nope. But I got to tell you, the mailers, when you get the Keystroke medium coffee in the in the mail, oh my God, it smells so good.
Oh, I bet.
And then I have this one mailman who, before he puts it in, will like do like a double take at the package and be like,
"That's awesome. That is awesome. I love
it smells so good.
Coffee does. Does. I was surprised when I was younger because I loved the smell of coffee, but I hated the taste of it. So it took me a while to kind of adjust to that flavor because it smells so awesome, and then it's like, oh, bitter. And once I got used to it, now it's like I can't not drink it. But it took me a while to kind of adjust to it over the years.
In the state where I live, there's a couple of unique culinary choices out here.
Okay.
And one of them is coffee milk.
Okay. Coffee milk.
Yes. It is. It's a syrup that you really can't get in a lot of other places other than Rhode Island. Okay. It's kind of like a Rhode Island like signature thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really taste like coffee. It's sweet. It's almost like a caramel and nut flavor. Right.
I would like that.
But it's you throw it right in your milk. You stir it up like those old Nestle Quick style milks, and oh my God, it's so good. But I'm not going to tell you what we usually have it with because this is a morning show and we want people to have their breakfast. So speaking of having their breakfast, what are you working on right now?
Me, what am I working on? As far as promoting my book?
Yes. Talk about the book.
Let's talk about the book. It is book 1 of the Justice Cycle, Death. So it just came out on Amazon. You can pick it up on both trade paperback and ebook, and it's on Kindle Unlimited for the time being. It is my first novel ever. I'm a author virgin. It popped my cherry. So seems to be doing all right. I went with a series. Even though the book in itself is kind of a self-contained book. I mean, you could read the story and it does resolve itself somewhat. I do leave it open a bit, but I went with a series because this is a character that I've been working on since I was like 15 years old. I started with comic books. That was kind of my first love when it came to reading. And this was a character that I created when I was younger for our comic world, and I just kind of rolled with it because I really enjoyed it. I think people will. It's paranormal urban fantasy, but it's not like Twilight. There's
that's heavy on the fantasy.
Yeah, very heavy on the fantasy. Although the second book will be dealing with vampires and human trafficking, but. I kind of one of the things I did with this book is I centered it in my upstate New York little town of Greene and Binghamton. So I brought a lot of local culture in, a lot of local history in, which I really enjoyed, and kind of gives you a feel for what it's like to kind of live up here in upstate New York. In a way, I think we all kind of write what we know. It gives it a lot of realism, which is why you guys tend to write military sci-fi. That's something you guys about. Yeah. And for me, I kind of write what I know, so I went into the paranormal. And so
you're a vampire.
So yeah, actually, I do work. I work overnights. Come on, you know what that's like.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, I was actually driving home. I had to drive to Tennessee to see my son last week, I think it was. And I was driving home, and I leave at like 4 a.m. so I get home because I have to go to work usually the next day. And I was getting a headache because it was so bright. I'm like, it's so bright. I'm like, where are my sunglasses? then I, had to keep pulling over. And then once the sun went down, I'm like, woo, this is great.
Yeah.
I can see.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's awful. Like when we get out on a late night and, the giant glowing death ball is in the sky. It's like,
no. I do that every time somebody comes in. The day shift comes in and turns on the light, and you're like, "No, it burns! Stop!" We're night shifters.
So, can we get an elevator pitch on this, or do you want me to read it right from the blurb?
Read it from the blurb.
I gotcha. In the normally tranquil city of Birmingham, in upstate New York, women are turning up dead. Murder is something every town experiences, but here in the country, 2 in as many days is frightening. Police detectives Jared Cadret, did I say that right? Cadret and Dana Campbell, I got that one, are tasked with finding the killer. But when a mysterious FBI agent from the big city shows up, they begin to realize that something far more sinister has come to their little town. Leo, I hope my deep voice did that justice. As the war between the spirits of justice and injustice threaten to invade the earthly realm and angels and demons battle, what begins as a simple murder investigation will lead the 2 detectives breathe into the unseen world that exists in the shadows, thrusting them into a supernatural war that has been raging for millennia. 2 sides of the same coin, one in darkness, one in light. For all of all of time, the bearers fight. There we go. One soul dies, another chosen to bear the sword and its burden. The fate of man to be determined. This is the curse of the justice cycle. Woo! And Leo Vaccaro says, justice was done.
I have to laugh as you breathe because I remember editing out your breaths.
Yeah, right. Yeah, when I was doing Tim's book.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, he's very nasally.
Yeah. Trying to get the mouth noise. Yeah.
This is what happens when you break your nose 7 times.
Well, that's great. You can edit. You can do my book.
Awesome. I gotta get it quiet enough and enough time to sit down in the chair to do those pickups on Tim's.
Oh yeah, we were just talking about that yesterday, actually.
Oh my God, it's been a nightmare. Every time we've tried to get this together, it's just been like, the curse of like the 7 witches. Between my nose, my face stopped working in 20. And then my leg fell off. My wife got cancer. It was 2019 2020, excuse me, went absolutely bonkers. It was crazy.
Yeah.
So do you gonna have an audiobook version coming?
Yes. I still haven't decided whether I want to try to hire somebody, do it myself. I do some voice acting, but I have done a few sample chapters, and it's not as easy as you like. You play it back, you're like, this isn't like reading books to my kids. You're like, oh, this sounds awful.
And you know what happens? Leo, Walt, have you ever thought about narrating like a book about coffee? It's possible. And
you should write one.
And that no. Why did Walt have a stroke? He ingested every coffee he could get his hands on in 2 days in order to research.
You'd end up in my facility.
Yeah. Although we were talking last week, we were talking about some of the most expensive coffees on the planet.
Yeah.
And one of the ones I had, it cost, I believe it cost almost $30 for the cup of coffee.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's very expensive coffee. It's the most expensive brand they make is $700 for a 12-ounce bag.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's I don't think I could pay that for coffee.
Yeah, me neither. I mean, I tried it once because we were out at a very exclusive restaurant, and it was like one of those once in a lifetime. Yeah, I'll probably never have this again.
Yeah.
But like, even some of the more affordable, expensive coffees, which are really hard to get, like Kopi Luwak or Black Ivory. Have you ever heard of Black Ivory?
I have not.
So, you've heard of Kopi Luwak, right?
I have heard of Kopi Luwak.
Yeah, and I won't touch it because
Yeah.
you know Josh is saying chump change, right? And the great mystery is why people pay high-end dollars for cat poop coffee. Well, you know, the Kopi Luwak is roughly right now, I believe it's about $108 a pound. And
wow.
Most of the price comes in the preparation process because of how
Right.
extensively the beans have to be separated and cleaned and so forth and so on. There is another version of that called Black Ivory.
Okay.
Coffee, and instead of the coffee being sifted from the number 2 of the indigenous civet monkeys of the area, the beans are harvested from the waste of an elephant.
Okay, that's nasty.
Yes, and once again, cleaned, cooked, so forth and so on. But supposedly something about the digestive process peels just enough of the kernel away to make a far superior coffee. Once again, I will take my $15 to $20 per pound coffee over that any day.
Definitely not.
Yeah,
definitely not.
So how's book 2 coming along?
Book 2, pretty good actually. I had to do a lot more world building for this book. The first book is an origin story, and it covers like the second half of the book is pretty much takes place all in one night. Being like a comic book anime guy, it's kind of and a script writer, so it's a very fast paced moving book. And it was intentional that way. As a matter of fact, I've had a few people that have read it that have given me some feedback recently, and they've loved it, and they read it real fast. And I'm like, wow, I generally when I read a book, I don't read it in like 8 hours, but these guys just absorbed it. But it's a quick read, and it's just kind of like the opening foray into this world and into this sequence of events, and you'll the first book is death, the second book is plague, so it gives you an idea of what I'm kind of doing there. And then I have I kind of have it mapped out all the way into book 5 currently. The ending, I'm not 100% certain what I want to do with it yet, or exactly how I want to end it. And I've got book 2 play or book 2 famine, what I'm working on right now when it deals with vampires. I had to really get into a lot more world building, kind of establish magic systems, establish how I want things to work, where these things are coming from, what the greater spiritual world that exists around this, which with the first book, I'm just kind of hinting at a lot of stuff. I'm not really explaining as much stuff. It's giving you a taste of things. You get to see these characters as they begin, some of them as they're ending. And then like the Shogun, which is one of the first characters in the book that you encounter. It's kind of like the end of his story, but the beginning of Jared's story. And so you really don't know what's going on. So you're kind of experiencing the justice cycle from his perspective, which is what I wanted. I didn't want you to jump right into, okay, here's this guy, he's fully formed, hits the end of his world, and I just explain everything to you. So you're going to experience what it means to be a justice in my world here, from the very beginning to the very end.
Right.
And so you get to kind of experience this with him. And that's what I was going for, this idea that you're able to experience the justice cycle with him. And so I had to do a more world building. So book 2 took me a lot longer to kind of get set up so where I can start writing it. And so I recently started writing it, and it's going pretty good. I did like 3 chapters in right now. I'm a pantser. So I got plotter software, and I tried to plot it out, and I just couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I just decided I needed to just get down and write it.
Pantsers unite!
Yes! Love pantsing. We let the characters drive the story. So,
yeah.
They do things we don't intend. But I think it's fun, though, because then you kind of get to experience it, too. Like, you have a basic idea of where you want it to go, but you get to fall in love with the characters, with everybody else. And I enjoy writing that way. To me, that's so much more fun than, all right, I have everything established, what story beats are coming, what action beats are coming. And I've really enjoyed writing book 2, I think more on some level than book 1, because the characters are, I don't know the story as much as I did the first one. The first one I've been working on for so long. It's a character I created when I was a kid. I knew exactly where I was going to go on some level. Yes, there were some changes since the lockdown. I've missed pants. but with this one, the characters are doing different things than what I intended. And particularly Dana, she went a completely different path than what I had originally intended, and is getting her own book, which was not something that I had originally thought I was going to do. So I'm taking her in book 3 down a completely different path. And this book is where it's going to start. And that was never something I intended. So it's been really exciting for me to kind of write this time. I'm wanting to sit down. I'm hitting a lot more writer's block on some level, but in the sense of, I sit down, it takes me forever to write like two or three paragraphs, but then once it gets to rolling, it's just so much more exciting because I'm kind of enjoying the story. It's all coming to me as we go. So it's all new to me as well. So I'm enjoying it a lot more.
Yeah. Somebody asked me recently, one of my comic book friends, he was like, I was kind of thinking of getting into writing novels, but I'm very intimidated. He's like, I dipped my toe in the water a little bit, and all this terminology. And I said, hold on, nothing's new. I said, you're just getting out of like a Ferrari.
Yeah.
And you're just hopping into a Lamborghini. That's all you're really talking about. And he was like, well, what do you mean? And I said, all right, so give me a term that you're having trouble with. He's like, pantser. I'm like, penciler. He goes,
okay. Yeah.
He goes, okay. I said, yeah, you're the guy who's starting with a blank page and without drawing the outline of the form or anything like that, you just, and now you have a finished comic book page.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, and I broke it down comic book style, and he was like, oh my God, okay, yeah, I got it. Okay, maybe not so bad.
Now, is he an artist?
He is an artist and a writer, and he was just, and he was like, I'm kind of thinking about, maybe having some of my stuff have a novel element to it, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
He's like, you seem to be doing okay. And I'm like, don't get weird. Don't get weird. But yeah. So yeah, it's weird coming from that side of the house and going to, novels where everything, you're no longer working with, an artist and an inker and a colorist. And, what was the hardest part for you going from scripts to actual prose?
Not having everything, entire chapters be dialogue. I think that was, matter of fact, Lauren Moore is my editor, and she was like, here, let me send you this great article on different types of sentences. It's just like, you have it. This whole chapter is just dialogue. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah. And so that was probably the hardest for me. I mean, I've read most of my life. I absorb books. I've always been a reader. So the idea of writing a novel wasn't new to me. I've written lots of half novels and started books throughout the years and never finished them, or they just were terrible, and you throw them out and start over. But I think that was probably the biggest thing for me was coming at it from less of a minimalistic perspective and painting a different kind of picture. But it's not, in the same sense, though, it's not much different because you're painting pictures with words, but it's still very cinematic. You're approaching things from scene perspective. Like, this is the scene. And instead of kind of minimally saying, oh, exterior day, you have to explain that it's day, and you have things that, you explain it a little more. Of course, I grew up with Tolkien. He was my literary idol. And so I tend to be very poetic, which I had to really work on. When I did start kind of painting these pictures, everything, I take forever, like 5 pages to describe a tree. And, it's just, Lauren's like, yeah, cut that out. So,
yeah, TS is saying, my big fear is I'll get Ellen as an editor in here. How many looks can you cram into 3 pages?
My guys roll their eyes a lot, or sigh.
Yeah.
Like
sigh, smile.
It's like, how many times? Yeah. It's like, and you learn that too, like words you use a lot. But you have to go through like, I used dark like 10 times in that paragraph. Let's get rid of that. Find other ways to say that. But that's probably the biggest thing for me when transitioning from scripts was it's so minimalistic scripts. And writing a novel, you're trying to convey things with a lot more words. And something that you would trust, for instance, the director to interpret, because you don't want to tell the director what he's going to do. So writing a script, you're kind of giving a basic idea of what you see, but really it's up to the director to interpret that how he wants. Within a novel, you're the one interpreting that, and you've got to describe that to the person. So that was kind of the biggest challenge, I think, going from scripts to writing a novel.
Right on. Do you think you'd go back the other way, doing comics and stuff like that?
The problem with comics is I'm not an artist. So finding people to draw is hard. So I don't have I did a script a couple of months ago for a friend who's an artist, and he was like, I want to do there's like this horror anthology, and can you write me a script? And I did that for him, and he still hasn't done anything with it. So, but and then I've got scripts for this for Justice book 1 there. I have a bunch of scripts written that we were going to do this as a graphic novel, and my artist, for one, he wasn't very good. He was just up and coming, but they don't want to share any kind of revenue. They just want you to pay up front, and it's so expensive to pay up front, even going like through Fiverr. Let's do a graphic novel. I mean, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars for very little return, and I can't justify the expense. So I don't think I would go back to comics unless I really found somebody that was like, hey, I really like your stuff. I'm established. I can get you a lot of readership, and you're going to kind of make the money back what you're spending. Right now, I don't. One of the reasons why I went indie, because I've had a lot of friends ask me, and it wasn't because I don't think my book is good enough to get traditionally published. It's because, for one, I want creative control over my work. These characters mean a lot to me. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I've seen what Disney has done to Lucasfilm. I've seen what Marvel and DC have become over the last couple of years, and I just don't want that to happen. Oh God. And I just don't want that to happen to my work. So that's one of the main reasons why I decided to go indie with this, and I don't want to take another 4 years to try to get traditionally published. But I'm not hurting for money. So right now with this series, I know we had talked about this when I first brought it out. I'm not really going to start spending a lot of money to promote it till I've got the series done.
Right on.
So for right now, for me, it's just doing the work and becoming an author and becoming consistently an author. So I'm not really looking at this as, I want to make a ton of money tomorrow. Like that's not my goal. I don't mind investing the money into the work right now for future gains for me. So, but it's kind of a big deal for me to keep creative control. I just don't want someone coming and saying, you got to change this character to a black woman, or not that I have a problem with black women, but it's just
right.
I don't want them coming and saying you got to change the whole thing into something it's not.
Well, we had that similar problem with author Michael Rothman.
Okay.
He had a story he was talking about it the other night, and he had a story that was percolating in his brain, and the character was a person of color and a scientist. Yeah. And they said, well, you're a white Jewish guy. You can't write this. So we're not going to publish it. And he's like, well, why can't
right.
I? And they said, well, you're not this character. And he's like, well, I'm not a woman either. Does that mean that I can't write any women in my story?
Sure. I'm not a dog. What if I want to have a dog talking? I'm not allowed to write about dogs. Yeah.
So, I mean, it was the idea of write what you know versus a form of agenda. And he was like, no, I am writing what I know. I'm a scientist. This person's a scientist.
Exactly.
And he's like, there's going to be monsters in it too, but I'm not a monster.
Right.
And it was a very interesting conversation that he went over with us on a different show. And it was kind of scary that, you can't publish with us because we don't want this kind of story because you're not the right fit. And it's like, crazy. Yeah,
it's crazy, isn't it? I was actually looking for agents for a while, which is kind of why I think the book was done officially in June or something of last year. And it took me this long to get it out because I was looking for agents and I was really debating what to do with this. And it was really hard to find agents because it's like not looking for white males, not looking for Christian conservatives, which I am, not looking for this, only looking for what I found a lot was LGBTQ, African-American issues or characters, women-driven characters. So it was really hard to find an agent. I mean, I looked and I'm going through like, oh, who's Jim Butcher's agent? One of my competitors there, and it's like, oh, not taking submissions because I've got a million, and it was like I did have it kind of narrowed down to Ted Decker's agent. Which is a Christian fiction guy that I really enjoy. And I was looking at him for a while and thinking, all right, let me see if I can send him my stuff. And I'd really thought about it, prayed about it. I just decided I was going to go indie. Of course, 99% of my friends are indie. So it's, I know you guys have been such a big help and teaching me how this works. And, but it was so hard to find anything. It was crazy. I was like, seriously, is that all you guys want to write? Like, I can't imagine that that's the only market out there are these markets. It's like, they're not the books I buy. So not that I have African-American characters in my book and I'm not against African-American characters. I love JR's character there. Scipio is African-American. I love that character. So I'm not against that, but it's like, I'm not LGBTQ. I'm not a liberal, and I'm not, my philosophies in my books are obviously not going to be that. So it's like, they're not even going to look at my stuff.
Right.
It was crazy hard to find an agent. I was really surprised that I didn't expect to hit that kind of wall, I guess.
We put in one of our on my other publishing imprint has a studio. We put in an LBGQT. I'm sorry, my my lack of coffee is getting to me.
It's okay. It's okay.
But anyway, so we put in an LGBTQ character.
Yeah.
And I actually had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, this character's gay." I was like, I know.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, but it's not really played up in the work. And I'm like, because it doesn't really matter in the work. Yeah. He's getting shot at. He's not trying to pick somebody up at a bar.
Sure.
Or meet somebody for the first time on a blind date or anything like that. Right. I said, he's being shot at. And they're like, yeah, but you should go into this. I'm like, why? He's being shot at. And the character that we're promoting was a homage to a good friend of mine from back when I was active duty.
Okay.
And it was kind of like, hey, dude, I put you in one of my games, and he was stoked about it. He's like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah. And of course I beefed him up. I'm like, yeah, you're like a Navy SEAL dude or something like that. Now he's like, that's right, I am. And he was stoked about it. But then, I had somebody actually reach out and be like, you're not showing this off enough. And I'm like, no.
Yeah. I don't, not that I don't have friends that are LGBTQ. And I think it's kind of like writing women. Like at first you're kind of intimidated. Like, how do I write women? You just write them like you would anybody else. It's, yeah, there are differences to the way men and women think, but realistically speaking, they're just human beings with similar, wants and interests as everybody else. And so figuring out what that is, it's not like it's hard once you kind of get that feel for, all right, I'm just going to, I'm going to write them. I guess it's when I try to avoid stereotyping.
Yeah.
It's so easy to do. But even when I, deciding to make the FBI character Thomas Johansson African-American, at first I was a little bit like, how do I write this? And I'm like, I write him like I would any other, person. He's a person. He's got the same kind of likes, dislikes, needs, wants as anybody else. So I just approached it like that. Like I didn't try to make him, I didn't try to, stereotype him. I just wrote him like I would write Jared, like anybody else, because he's a person. And all my African-American friends are just people.
Hey, I made one. For those who don't know, Facebook user is the infamous Kayleen Williams.
Ooh.
Yeah, she narrated our short story for us, and did an amazing job.
Yeah.
And she is an editor par excellence.
Ooh.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm stoked to see what this series does, and I got to check it out an earlier version.
You did, yes.
And I was a bit of a prick because I was like, why is there all this flipping?
Did not like my sword fighting. To my defense, I'm an anime guy, and I view this as an anime. That was the original with the scripts. I really wanted to turn it into an anime. I was trying to find an animator. So if you watch anime, I mean, that's what they do. They're supernatural beings. I mean, they're the living embodiment of justice and injustice. So they're supernatural beings, and that's one of the things I enjoyed most. Getting on a different note, one of the things I really enjoyed most about this was the subtle talking, the subtle way that I discuss or approach really deep issues like what is justice, and is killing somebody justice. And yet at the basic core of something, if someone is a murderer, an eye for an eye is the base justice. But I can't remember who said it. He said, justice without mercy is demonic.
Yes.
And so I think that there's truth to that. So the sword being absolutely just is not merciful. So the person wielding the sword is the counterbalance to that. So approaching these ideas of, the person being compelled to do things that might go against his moral center and dealing with that, how do I deal with that issue? Am I a monster, because I've killed somebody who did something wrong, but yet it is absolutely just. When you really think about it, is justice, but in the same extent that doesn't seem right to him. So being able to approach that, I really enjoy that, and we'll get more into that in the next couple books. It's easier when you're dealing with quote unquote absolute evil, but you're like, oh, he's a vampire. It's easy to just kill the vampire, But getting into with this book, and I don't want to get into any spoilers because I want people to read it. But getting into this book, one of the biggest issues he has is that he doesn't want to kill the villain. And so it messes with him. And I've always been fascinated with overpowered characters. I love Superman. If I was going to write any comic book character, I've always wanted to write Superman because I'm fascinated with the idea. How do you approach this overpoweredness and find ways to make it interesting? And I'm not talking about depowering him like, oh, we're just going to give him kryptonite. That's fine. But you can't use kryptonite in every storyline. Right. Or, he's weak to magic. Okay. That's great. He's weak to magic. But, I'm also I don't like it when they just make them dark. Like I do like Man of Steel in the movie, and I like the Justice League, particularly the Snyder Cut version of Justice League. I didn't necessarily like the original. But what I didn't like is their version of Superman, because Superman is a good guy. He is the moral center of the DC universe, and you can't take that away from him. Yes, he has issues. I get that, but he's not dark and brooding like Batman. He needs to be the bastion of hope. But yet I feel like everybody who kind of tackles him, that's how they deal with him is, oh, we're just going to make him darker or riddled with issues. And that's how we're going to handle the quote unquote overpoweredness. So finding a way to take an overpowered character, which my character is, and find ways to creatively limit that is fascinating. And I really enjoyed doing that in this book, and finding ways to do that in the next book is also, I think it's going to be a lot of fun, because really this character can do just about anything. So, but the one villain can as well on some level, but finding ways to limit that. I just found that fascinating, writing that, being able to write that, approach it from that standpoint. Like, yeah, he really can do anything, but this is why it's not working.
Yeah.
Right now. It was
right
fun.
on. So people can find this on Amazon right now. Go in and search for book 1 of the Justice Cycle, and it comes right up. Man, I really appreciate you coming out today. This has been awesome.
No, I appreciate you having me. I loved it. I really do appreciate it.
You're gonna come back on another time, right? When you got either more books or something else to talk about.
Absolutely.
We can talk about more poop coffee.
We can. I'll actually, maybe I'll try it first.
No, don't do it. Don't do it. A, it's very expensive, and B, don't do it.
Yeah, I don't generally eat stuff or drink stuff that's been in another living being's digestion.
This is also why we don't eat stuff like haggis.
Yeah.
But by the way,
digestive tract.
Yes, please send all hate mail to Josh at keystroke.medium.com. Yeah. Sorry. We were speaking of Josh, he has his Monday morning live show with Scott and Chuck on 11 a.m. Eastern time, where they do dynamic roundtables and thoughtful discussions with various authors in and around the writing sphere. Obviously, Coffee and Concepts, 7:30 a.m. Eastern, where we talk about I don't even know what we were talking about. And then on Fridays, I believe now right around 3 p.m. Eastern, Lauren and Kayleen bring in authors to from various topics around the writing world to talk about things that can help longtime readers and longtime authors, as well as first timers just dipping their toe into the literary world, help them not only appreciate what is being written, but maybe construct some of that writing themselves. We have Josh Gayu doing long form storytelling on YouTube. And speaking of YouTube, hit and like that subscribe button so that we can bring you even more content with some of the various things we have going on, such as James S. Aaron doing his marathon author, and Kayleen Williams, who showed up a little while ago, doing her chapter 1 reads, where she takes the first chapter of the best books you might not have caught yet and gives you a little taste of what's between the covers. We want to thank you for coming out and sharing a bit of your coffee with us this morning, and we'll catch you next time right here on Coffee and Content.